Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You, Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me?
Chicken.
Damn! We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk Lime, or you? You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host, Ben Waterworth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Survivor Oz, Australia's only Survivor podcast and website, as we come to you for yet another episode recap of the 31st season Survivor Cambodia Second Chances. Exciting things happened, exciting things are here to be talked about, and we have an exciting person to chat about this week. He came on this show a couple of months ago and turned into what is still our longest ever interview. It took 1/6 of a day, if you want to actually be technical of how long it took. So you know that this is going to be an episode with lots to talk about. Please welcome at Survivor Worlds Apart, Mr. Dan Foley. Dan, welcome back to Survivor Oz.
Good morning, my friend. Good morning.
Good morning to you. And have you recovered from 4 hours sitting and talking about Survivor only a couple of months ago? I mean, I think I'm just slowly getting some feelings back in my legs and stretches and all those sort of things after that marathon interview.
Oh, come on. I'm an Irishman. I'm full of crack. I could talk all night long.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I've got time. But I don't know if you're working or not today, Dan. But anyway, we'll get to that. But good to have you back. Good to get here talking about this season. And of course, I always like to touch base with sort of people who were on the previous season to the one we're talking about, because I can imagine that right now, is it a little bit strange having to get used to the fact that you're watching a season of Survivor that you're not on?
No, it's not. I mean, I know it sounds cliche because I've said it so many times at this point, but I was a fan first, so the fact that I got to play the game is nice, but to me, it's just another season to watch. You certainly have a different feel, you have a different perspective because I got to be there. So, every now and then you see a little something and it brings those pangs of having played the game back. But no, it's just all good. It's just another season to watch. It's just another season to enjoy.
And 2 weeks in, how have you been finding it? And let's put aside the obvious, I guess, answer that I'll ask you a separate question for in a second based on this week's.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
The season in general, Dan. Season in general so far.
Conceptually, I think this concept is brilliant. I do. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think that they've got more power players. I think they've got more potential winners than ever. I think this is going to be a really tough call. But one of the casting calls that I went to, I had basically pitched an idea for a season, and I said, forget Fiji and forget all the China and all these. Let's do Survivor Cutthroat Island, and you're only going to choose from one of three categories and make it based upon the power of 10. People that have applied for a minimum of 10 years, people that have been to a minimum of 10 casting calls, or people that have traveled a minimum of 10,000 miles to get to casting calls. Because these are your diehard fans. There will not be a single lamb. There won't be a lemming. There won't be a pawn in that group. And I think that would give you one of the greatest seasons ever. And this season is really not too far off of that concept. These are people that had a shot. It didn't work out, but they all want to come back. And the moment they hit the beach, it was game on. The gameplay was different depending on the person, but it was game on for the vast majority of these people. And I really do. I think this could work out to be one of the greatest seasons ever.
Well, it's interesting you say that. We were talking about it in our recap episode last night, particularly with the way they're trying to, I guess, show this season and the editing, because we've obviously seen early on a real old school versus new school thing happening, and I feel they're kind of trying to do that with the editing as well. We had so much shown this episode of kind of just interactions between survivors. I mean, we had this big, huge story by Savage about sort of his wife that kind of tied into emotions, but there were still strategic elements about Stephen asking whether or not Jeremy was getting an idol, and we're still obviously getting strategy. So do you feel as though the producers, I guess, are trying to do that as well, what you're saying, and lead it to maybe be one of the best seasons and really try to incorporate what a lot of old school fans miss about Survivor, but of course incorporating what a lot of new school fans love about Survivor?
Well, it's funny because we were talking about the whole old school versus new school concept. And I don't know if that's very accurate, because they're harping on this old school, new school thing. But Wu seems to associate with the old school mentality. So just because he's a new school player, he still seems to be more like old school mentality. And I got to tell you, when we hit the beach, we absolutely had old school mentality. We wanted to get fire. We wanted to get water. We wanted to get the shelter built. We wanted to get all these things done right away. And I don't think it's old school versus new school. I really think it's wisdom versus youth. Because the younger you are, it seems like the more apt you are to not focus on some of the bigger picture things, which is, it's Survivor. You have to survive. So you've got to have that shelter. You've got to have the fire. You've got to have the water. And that's very important. Because if you're one of the, what do they call them? The shelter people versus the beach people. If you're one of the beach people and you're just walking back and forth on the beach and everybody's back in camp, busting their ass, making camp life good, and you lose challenge after challenge after challenge, eventually they're going to look at you and go, you're a worthless turd. You don't do shit around camp. You know, I got to look at my numbers and my long-term goals, but I mean, Varner is being real smart right now because he's keeping his options open. I think that's going to bite him in the ass eventually. Like John and Jacqueline from Blood versus Water 2. If you just keep flip-flopping like that, eventually you have to settle in or people aren't going to trust you ever. But right now, it's working. Right now it's working for him.
It's fascinating, I guess, with Varner because, you know, it's obviously been big period in between him playing, but of course in his game in Australia, I mean, he was, I think there were elements of forward thinking in terms of, I mean, season 2 was very fresh. There was strategy there, but obviously not to the extent there is today. But kind of in watching how he played in season 2, there were definitely moments there that where you could tell he was trying to play this game. And I know he's been on this show before and other shows, and he sort of said that before this opportunity. But do you kind of feel now that this is just the perfect opportunity for someone like Varner, who is out there, is sort of everything you were just saying, but he's obviously a very likable guy. People seem to just get along with him, but he's also this type of person that maybe also speaks his mind a little bit too much in certain situations.
I really do. I think he's trying to play both sides of the fence and loose and free. And at the moment, it's working. But once some of these really strategic players start looking at this a lot closer, I really do. I think this is going to bite him in the butt. One of the things that I had heard, I watched Shireen's exit interview with Dalton Ross and Sesternino. And one of the things that she said she did was, when they called her name, she walked up to bring her torch, and before Probst snuffed it, she turned and looked at everybody that was left, and she goes, I just want you to know, Jeff Varner has a hidden immunity idol. I've watched him bury it. And she got really nervous because Probst doesn't always like impromptu things at Tribal Council. So she turned around to look at him, and he had this big, huge smile on his face. And he goes, anything else? And then she turned around and just started to explode at people, just saying all kinds of lies. And I think she was so pissed at Varner, she wanted to blow up his game. But simultaneously, she wanted to take the heat off of Spencer and Kelly Wentworth. Kelly Wentworth, rather, excuse me. And So I really think that was kind of interesting that they didn't show it. But the only thing that I can figure is that it didn't amount to anything. Nothing came of it. So again, they have the ability to manipulate time because they know what future events are. So they choose what past events to put in. So it sounds really cool that she dropped the bombs, but if nothing came of it, if it sounded shallow, if it sounded plastic, if it sounded like a lie, nobody believed it, everybody moved on, and it didn't matter.
Well, exactly, because, I mean, something that key that is sort of being pointed out like that, if we saw sort of straight away next episode, Varna running around panicking, going, oh, I don't have an idol, don't listen to her, and then people kind of assuming he does, then of course we're going to see that. But it's still fascinating, though, because they also do like to show sort of like little quirky moments, don't they, when people get voted out. If, you think of some of the most famous sort of vote outs, like Dawson kissing Probst and, Richard Hatch's little comments and things like that. They often like to show things like that. I thought that would be something they'd want to show.
When I heard her say that, part of me was like, okay, that's really friggin' cool. Because most people are so pissed off, in shock, upset, whatever, when their name is finally called, that they can't say anything. And the fact that she had the presence of mind was, to her credit, that's actually pretty cool. But like I said, the only thing I can figure is that it was such a bomb, and nothing came of it, or she just presented it so badly that it just wasn't worth showing. So that's the only thing I can figure.
It's fascinating, I think, kind of watching Shireen this season in 2 episodes, because, I mean, last week when we kind of were discussing, we did our power rankings, I know personally I had her up a bit high because I guess really with the whole Vetus vote out on screen, at least, it wasn't really shown too much how that went down. I realise it's been explained, obviously, through exit interviews and other things since then, but it kind of, what was shown really showed Shireen as possibly a real catalyst behind why Vetus was voted out. And then sort of fast forward a week, and it's kind of like straight bang to the bottom, and obviously, clearly, she's been voted out. Just looking at least on her first episode, and obviously I know your and Shireen relationship is quite different, Dan, but I mean, were you kind of watching that first episode and thinking like, what's she doing here? She's maybe trying to change things up, or were you just not buying any of that?
No, the way I saw... so I was actually in New York 2 days ago. I was at the Rob Has a Podcast live event in New York. And Max was there. I got to meet Francesca and Andrea. It was really pretty cool. But they talked to Max. They talked to all of us for a few minutes. But one of the things that Max had said, and I'm absolutely going to defer to Max, because Max is going to be one of her biggest supporters. And one of the things that he had said was, if Shireen plays this game 100 times, she's going to play the exact same game 100 times. Shireen can't learn. And that's Max. That's not me saying that. And I got to tell you, I think he's right. Because I think she was smart to try to target certain people, but I think she was dumb to target Vetus. I think that was a really bad move. And you see so many survivors do this, and this is just my opinion. I think it's absolutely asinine that you would get rid of somebody like Vetus as opposed to Abby Maria. That was just stupidity beyond reason, because Abby Maria, she has the record for sitting out more challenges than anybody else. She is arguably one of the worst performers in the history of Survivor challenges. And you're going to keep somebody like that versus Vetus? At that stage of the game, it is not about loyalty. It is about never seeing Jeff Probst. That is all that matters. And you have to keep your tribe strong, sharp, and smart. And as long as you can, you've got a better chance to avoid tribal council, because you could have the tightest alliance in the world. But if it's a whole bunch of people that can't win the challenges, you're going to go back again and again and again, and you're going to have to dwindle away at your own numbers. And then before you know it, the merge comes, you're on the short end of numbers, and you're screwed. So I think it was intelligent. I think it was brilliant the way that she processed it. I just think it was really bad play that she got rid of him instead of Abby.
And we're seeing that on Bayon, aren't we? That, I mean, obviously they haven't gone to tribal yet, but we saw that in Stephen's confessional when he was talking about Joe, that basically he's the guy you keep around, but come merge, you cut his throat.
And I got to tell you, I think the same thing is going to happen to Joe. I think the most profound line spoken so far in both episodes was by Jeremy Collins, when he said, I need to align myself with Joe because I need him as a shield. And I got to tell you, that makes him my early pick to win. I think that is because that's exactly what we all did. I looked at Joe, Mike, Tyler. I looked at them as my shields. And I just kept thinking to myself, let's keep this person around till we get rid of that person. And as soon as we get rid of that person, then we go after this person. So Mike did the same thing. Joe was public enemy number one, and we were just so focused on getting rid of him. And then when we did, it was either going to be Mike or Tyler. And in my book, I wanted to get rid of Tyler first. I wanted to get rid of Mike first because I didn't think Tyler was as big of a challenge threat. But once we got rid of Joe, we could never get rid of Mike, and he walked his way to the end. I think we're going to see something similar again. I think Joe's going to get to the merge. I think he's going to be an incredible presence at individual immunity, and I just don't think he can win. I don't think he can run every single challenge. I think he's going to fall into the same trap that Ozzy, Malcolm. I think he's going to be that same person everybody targets, and Fishback did say it.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to watch kind of how people are reacting with him too. Like, obviously, the women are fawning over Joe, and like everybody's sort of loving him, and he's had such a positive edit so far. And it's kind of got this almost, I don't want to compare him to JT because of that sort of the cult status there was a lot later on in the game, but it's just kind of fascinating how it's sort of taken so early. And then, as you said, we've got these lines from Jeremy, we obviously had Stephen's line, and I mean, you obviously played with Joe, so I mean, are you kind of just seeing this and thinking, wow, Joe must be absolutely loving every bit of this right now? Because this isn't how it started on No Collar really for him, was it?
It is exactly how it started, but now they've just gone to the power of 10 with this thing because they are just really taking it up a notch. They want Joe to be that heartthrob. They want Joe to be that. I mean, his edit is just, the only thing that he's missing at this point is the cover of a romance novel with his hair blowing in the wind, with no shirt on, holding some lovely large-breasted woman in one arm in a sweeping move, and you can hear the hearts popping over her head and the string music, and
somebody's going to make that now, Dan. I mean, you realize somebody's going to Photoshop that after you've just said that.
Listen, if somebody does that, I want credit for that. Please, anybody make that. No, come on, Joe is 28 years old. He's a young kid. Who wouldn't be sucking this up? I mean, he's got incredible family values. He's got just this very close, tight-knit support network with his parents, with his sisters. They love each other, and it's beautiful. But at the moment, Joe is just loving life. He really is, and he should be. He's getting a great edit. They're making him look amazing. Not that he isn't already, but I'm really happy for the kid because I genuinely care about Joe. I love the guy, and I hope he enjoys every minute of it.
Yes, to be that good looking and being able to walk around topless. I mean, it must be a hard life for Joe, I could imagine. He must be, just hating all the attention in real life.
Yeah, I know. He's such a shithead.
Yes,
I know.
Poor guy. We feel for you, Joe. We really do. I mean, you're talking obviously before about kind of having someone like Joe around as a shield and everything when it comes to the votes. Just on the vote out of Shireen, obviously it came down to Spencer and Shireen. Like, how do you think that decision went in terms of sort of Varna and the sort of the majority alliance choosing to take out Shireen? I mean, we saw Spencer in Cagayan, obviously was kind of always really on the wrong side of things. He was kept around for a bit. Just as soon as it looked like he was about to do good, things would turn to shit again. He's the ultimate Charlie Brown survivor, I guess you could say. Like, do you again feel that was that the right move to take out Shireen, or would have you, if that was you in that alliance, would have you pushed for someone like Spencer to go at that point instead?
No, because I would defer right back to what I just said about Abby Maria. You know, Spencer is by far the stronger competitor. He is by far a better person, and right now, both him and Shireen are showing that a leopard can't change their spots. He is in the identical position that he was the first time around. He's there at tribal council begging for another chance, and he got it. And from strength and from tribal strength as far as immunity challenges, I think that was the right move to keep him. Now, granted, with a mix-up next week already, you know, that could come to bite him in the butt. But if they presumed that they were going to continue as a tribe, much better move. Spencer is a much better competitor.
What do you think it is about Spencer in Survivor that sees him in these positions? Because he seems like a very intelligent person. He is a very intelligent person. I mean, we've had him on this show multiple times, and he's sort of very savvy and sort of knows what he's doing, and he just really seems like a type of person that people connect with. But for some reason, he just always, as you said, is in the same position time and time again. Like, what is it about him that just manages to get in these positions?
Okay, so bring on the hate mail.
All right.
So I'm bracing I'm bracing it. So I think in this world, there are, for the most part, you're going to get two kinds of people. You're going to get the kind of people on a scale of 1 to 10 who can score a 10 on intelligence tests, but they'll stand there for 5 minutes pushing on a pull door. They just have no common sense. Or you have it the other way around. People that have all the common sense in the world, but no book smarts. They couldn't pass a written test to save their lives. And I think Spencer is incredibly intelligent, but I think he's so linear that his game can't flow. So he gets stuck into that lack of common sense. And he said it first episode. He said it in his Meet Spencer video. I fell into the trap of looking at people like chess pieces. And I can't do that. I have to be able to relate to people, and I have to be able to tie in and blah, blah, blah. And he didn't do it. He even said he needed to do it, and he didn't do it. He just simply got comfortable with his position. And please tell me you didn't see the Max and Shireen show turned into the Spencer and Shireen show. I mean, it was exactly the same thing for her too. She found another Survivor geek. They thought they were running the show. And, you know, and instead of Shireen's biggest alliance going away, Shireen went away. And I'll tell you right now, if Joaquin hadn't been a monster in the water challenge in my season, Shireen would have been the second one gone in my season. She would have gone.
It's fascinating too. The thing about that whole situation that I found the most funniest too was the fact that when they went to Woo, and again, no disrespect to Woo, or I guess maybe it is a bit, I don't know how this is going to say, but Woo schooled Shireen and Spencer in how to play Survivor. And this is freaking Woo we're talking about here.
Thank you. Yes. I got to tell you, all of us, everybody watching the show, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, dear God, they're going to go to Woo. He's going to give that typical, well, that's interesting. Huh, I'll have to think about that. Geez, I'll have to weigh my option. No. Woo just looked at me and went, no. And I think the best thing he said was, you haven't spoken to me since we got here. And now all of a sudden I'm your buddy? Really? I am so excited and proud of Woo because they didn't show anything like that the first time he played. And now all of a sudden here's something that makes him look like a definitive player. And he all just basically told him to shut up. But what somebody else had said, wouldn't you think after Spencer and Woo played together, Spencer would have taken his shot at Woo? Why Shireen? And somebody else had said, we saw Spencer try to talk to Woo last time. How did it work out? Spencer probably told Shireen, yeah, you're not going to get anywhere, but go ahead, give it a shot. I'm here with you.
Which is so funny because last week we saw Jeremy and Keith kind of straight away patch it up and like, cool, man, yep, we had our differences, but I'm over it, let's move on. And like, bang, straight away, clear the deck, it's a fresh start. And exactly sort of what you're pointing out, like Spencer, does he have the intelligence to do that with Woo? You think he would have done that?
No, apparently not. I mean, again, we don't know what wasn't shown, but I got to tell you, I don't think Spencer did. I don't think I think he already had his pregame alliance with Shireen, and I think they knew they were both Survivor geeks, and they put too much intelligence and not enough common sense, and they were just too new school. And the biggest problem with that, there was too much youth there. There wasn't enough wisdom. And the biggest problem with that is if you've got, not everybody is going to respond the same. And people asked me, I mean, very, very, very few people knew that I was going before I went. But the people that did know, they're like, what's your strategy? What's your gameplay? And I just kept saying the same thing. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. Because if you go in there with a plan in advance, you're screwed. You're screwed because you can't know what you're going to do because you don't know who you're playing with. You have to see those personalities. You know, I mean, obviously I slammed Shireen with the you can't do basic math because she aligned herself on the short end of the numbers. And now she tried to align herself on the high end of the numbers with absolutely no consideration to who and what these people were. So she pissed off Abby Maria, who cared nothing about numbers, who cared nothing about logic and anything else. She just wanted someone to talk to her. And Shireen didn't have enough forethought. I mean, again, I think this Shireen going home the way she did was dripping in irony and karma. Absolutely dripping in it. And I guarantee you, as she was sitting in that shelter laughing at Abby Maria, I guarantee you the producers, oh my God, I guarantee you they were sitting there with a heart on going, oh, this is beautiful. I guarantee it.
Hence Prope's reaction at Tribal Council, like, because it was very fascinating watching how that all played out. And I mean, Abby really did sum it up in her confessional. She's like, well, look, I was going to align and work with Shireen because I just saw a season and she was like me. She was sort of the loner and did all this, and I related to that. But now she's treating me like shit, and it's just it's fascinating. And I guess obviously from your perspective, given your relationship that you had with her out on your season, and watching how this is all playing out. I mean, dare I ask this question, Dan, but what are you thinking? I mean, you mentioned the irony, but like, what truly are you thinking? Are you laughing, going in your face, Shireen? I mean, what are you saying at the TV at that point?
Okay, so here's another Danism for you. So bring on more hate mail. All right. I think there's three kinds of people that you will meet in the course of your life. The first kind, as soon as you meet them, you instantly know. There's some type of kismet between the two of you. You just think the same. You act the same. Max and Shireen are that type of people. You just know you're going to be friends forever. Type number two, you meet the people and you think, oh, this person's very nice. If I see them again sometime, great. If I never see them again, ever, that's okay. It won't break my heart. They're nice people. The third type, me and Shireen. People that are just oil and water, they just don't get along. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying anything derogatory about her. I'm just simply saying, for whatever reason, those are personalities that just don't get along with each other, and that's just the way it is. Just because there are 20 other people that are playing second chances, that doesn't mean that the rest of us don't get ours as well. I wish Shireen no ill will. I don't. I really don't. I'm not, I'm very sorry she got voted out. It doesn't break my heart that she got voted out. And it certainly doesn't break my heart that she got voted out the way that she did. But I do not wish her ill will. I certainly hope that, that she can learn, that she can grow. And if she can, that's great. If she can't, well, that's, again, that's for her those are her demons to work out. But she went home the way that she went home. I think it was very short-sighted on her part to say in one of her exit interviews that she sees no similarities between how she went home and what happened with her. I think that's very short-sighted. I think Probst nailed that. It was 100% accurate. It was not the same how the whole situation started. They were very different, incredibly different. but the fact that Abby was isolated, somebody came to her rescue, and Shireen literally just sat there laughing at her. And I know for a fact that Shireen and Abby Maria had met in advance. They had met outside. They had hung out, several times. So I think Abby believed that there was a pregame alliance there, and to have Shireen laughing at her, I think that cut Abby Maria very deep.
Yeah, and she seems to be that type of person that I guess once she feels she's got a connection with somebody, she's one of those people that really holds on to that. And if that person then betrays him, obviously we saw the emotional reaction from Abby, which is then sort of what Terry did, which, he went to Abby to make sure everything, and then sort of maybe you could say was the catalyst, I guess, behind how that whole vote played out. And it was very clever.
100%.
Yeah, and extremely clever from Terry. And he keeps saying, of course, like, I'm here, social game, I'm changing it. Each player really out there at the moment has kind of got that second chance arc that they're obviously trying to do from their first time around. But for Terry to do that, and based on how Terry played his first season, was just amazing. I mean, based on that move alone, Terry's position in this game, how do you think he's going to fare for the rest of this season based purely on how he's playing right now?
Right now, I really want to correct you, and I don't want to pick on you, but I don't think it's fair to call it a clever move, because I don't think he went out there to be clever. I think he went out there to be genuine and sincere, and I think I do agree with you that it's amazing to see how he played the first time and how he's playing now. He is him. Cass is another one, quintessential example of a leopard changing their spots, of learning from your mistakes. Obviously, Shireen and Spencer haven't, but so far, Cass and Terry have. And I think Terry went out there to be genuine, to be sincere, to be a caring person. And in the process, he's like, hey, I could use this. And that's just good gameplay. But he didn't go out there for gameplay. He went out there to be a human being. And I'm just so incredibly impressed by that, because it's such a departure from his first game. And I think based upon that, and think about it from the producer's perspective. Think about it from the perspective of editing. How much do you think is going to happen with Sierra? How much do you think is going to happen with Monica? Because how much have we seen of them?
I keep forgetting Monica's even on the season, to be honest. So.
Yeah, exactly. Who are the big players right now? You've got Jeremy, Spencer, you've got Joe, you've got Dietz, you've got Varner, you've got Savage, you've got Kelly Wigglesworth didn't get a lot of airtime this week, but and I think the only reason why she got airtime last week was because she found the idol. But I still say she's going to be a huge part of the season. I really see that. But there's a lot of people that were chosen to be there, and we haven't seen bupkis from them.
Yeah. Which is, I guess with these all-star seasons, like complete all-star seasons, I guess from an editor's perspective, it probably would be even more challenging because, we all want to see a portion of these players. And as you said, we voted for these players to play. So they feel obviously there's a part that they've always got to show them. But we went from last week, everybody got a confessional last week. And this week, I think about 6 people missed out on getting a confessional. There's always a challenge there, obviously, when it comes to editing, and particularly when we've seen one tribe win both challenges and one tribe lose. But it's kind of fascinating sort of when you mention, like a Monica and a Sierra, particularly Monica, because Monica got a lot of pre-game love. And I was one of those people, because when you look at these players on paper, Monica is somebody who you could say, well, she could win this game because, A, who the hell is going to target Monica, first of all, because do people even really remember too much about her? And B, if you look at past all-star seasons where, Amber wins or Parvati wins, coming into the season, people questioned them even being there in the first place, but that worked for their advantage and they were able to go far and then obviously play a better game and win. So that's why I feel Monica was really talked up as a potential winner. But yeah, 2 episodes in, 1 confessional, barely any airtime. Surely any hope of her winning this game is just gone based on her editing 2 episodes.
If on paper, I should be able to fly like a bird. I can't remember who the football coach was that said it, but he said stats are for losers. because winners only care about the W column. And I had Monica doing virtually nothing this game. And I think to compare her to Parvati, that's a travesty. Those two do not belong in the same category. They should not be spoken in the same breath. Parvati is Survivor royalty. Although I think Sari is an infinitely better player than Parvati. But my expectations of Monica were very low. And again, nothing against her. Absolutely nothing against her. And Sierra's the same way. The only reason why she is there is because she voted against her mom. That's it. She didn't do anything up until that point, and that is all she'll ever be remembered for. And I'm hoping that these two can come up with something. Maybe they're biding their time. Maybe they're being smart to keep it low, keep it quiet, dial it back. Tyler did the same thing. When we got the first mix-up to go from 3 tribes to 2, and he walked into camp, and he's basically like, I'm looking at the dynamics, and we've got Dan on one hand, we've got Mike on the other hand, and if I come in with a really big personality, he says, I'm going to be targeted fast. He said, so I chose to lay back and keep quiet. And, maybe that's what these girls are doing. They're just biding their time, letting all the big dogs fight it out, and then they jump in and take all the scraps that are left over kind of thing. So let's see how that plays itself out.
And I guess too, it's always one thing to read into edits and confessionals. But I mean, go back 2 seasons ago to Someone Del Sur with someone like Natalie, who Hunapu were winning everything early on, and there was no real need to show too much of what was happening on their tribe. So she was very sort of non-existent early on before she really came into it. So, Bayon keep winning. We're seeing Joe and his pecs and Stephen struggling to chop stuff. So that's about all that's happening over at Bayonne right now.
And his just incredibly feeble attempt to turn these alpha dogs on each other with, I think Jeremy's looking for an idol. Holy crap, dude. Are you really? You're supposed to be the intellect of this game.
The know-it-all.
That stupid? Oh my God, you're an idiot. That is just dumb. That is really just, and Fishback has spent more time bitching about people than actually going forward in the game. And I know there's a lot of Fishback lovers out there, and I think he is grossly, horribly overrated. He got blanked in the end. He got blanked. He didn't get a single one. You know what that makes you? A goat. That makes you the person that someone brings to the end because they know they can whip your ass. And, I don't know what JT was thinking in the course of that. I don't know if there was loyalty or anything else, but you get to the end and you get blanked, you're the GOAT. And again, bring on the hate mail people. Go ahead. I don't care.
God, I think the hate mail inbox is getting quite full this episode, Dan.
I've actually put more hard drives in for it, so don't worry about it. People are going to send the hate. So, listen, when other survivors want honest answers, they call me because I will tell you like it is. I'll tell you the truth. I think people like a lot of these bloggers. I think Fishback. I think Sesternino. I think Corinne. I think Eliza. I think they will say things just because they're shocking, but I don't think they always believe what they say. But if I say it, I believe it. I don't give a shit what you think. This is my opinion, and I have a right to my opinion. And if I tell you this is what I think, that's the truth. And, good, bad, or indifferent, I will tell you that booger is hanging out your nose because that's the right thing to do.
Thanks for telling me, actually. I just wanted to clear it away, but it's gone now, Dan, so thanks.
You're welcome. Welcome.
I just had to, I felt something there, but it's fascinating. I will be so intrigued to hear Stephen talking about this season, either when he's voted off or wins or whatever happens, after the season, let's just say that, because he's so prominent out there in the media community, be it on, Rob has a podcast and obviously he writes for People and, he has all these things out there and, it's fascinating his edit, because this is somebody who, as you said, he's so esteemed in the Survivor community. I mean, this would be like if Rob went back out for a third time and he was getting sort of portrayed this way. Like, can you imagine? Sort of, I think Rob's maybe got a bit of a higher standing in the fan community than Steven, but still, it's fascinating to see how this is happening.
Well, the only reason why Rob has such a high standing in the community is simply because of what Probst said. You are the smartest player never to win the game. And I think that is a gross overstatement. And he has just ridden on that. I think his podcast is great. I think it's cool. But even he started to blast Fishback, after the first episode. And I guess there was some back and forth. And you could tell that Fishback was all butthurt over it. And then he's like, that's it, I've had enough. And he turned off his Twitter account. And then I guess a day later, he turned it back on again. And he goes, I'm really sorry. And it's like, oh, wow. So he actually said, I've said a lot of hateful things or a lot of hurtful things about these people. And I'm hoping they don't remember or hold it against me. So now here he is on the receiving end of it, and he can't take it. Oh, so sad. I mean, again, there's a nice little taste of karma for somebody like that. I've never met Fishback. I've never seen him. I know he was not a fan of mine. I know that he beat me up last season. And am I smiling at him getting all this? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that definitely makes me happy. How does it feel, Steven? Maybe you should be a little bit more thoughtful when you go ripping on people, because it may come back to haunt you. So...
It's fascinating. I didn't know that about the whole Twitter situation. There you go. I learned something new with that. I actually, the Twitter exchanges that I'm actually quite enjoying, because Spencer's sharing them a bit on his account. I don't know if you've seen kind of, obviously he and Tony are having little messages between each other while they're watching the episodes. And
no, I haven't seen anything.
Look them up, and anybody listening, look them up. Spencer's sharing the screen caps of what they're saying. And the one that he was sharing was the scene when Spencer cried, and just what Tony was saying about, like, dude, you're crying, no, I can't take it. Like, it's hilarious. It's so funny. And if anybody out there obviously is fully aware of kind of like the whole Tony Spencer relationship out of the show, where Tony often pranks the shit out of Spencer, it's just hilarious. It's so good.
Oh, yeah, because Tony's got a better sense. I mean, Tony was a cop. He's got that better sense of humor. He's got that, and Spencer is just he's too rigid. He's too analytical, and that's, I haven't met Spencer in person, and again, to look at Tyler on the game is nothing like what Tyler is in real person. And maybe in real person, Spencer's much different. Maybe he is a prankster. Maybe he is a jokester. But boy, Tony got the better of him every time, didn't he?
Yes, so much so. Now, we do have a few listener questions. I'll get to those, but I just want to touch on a couple of other people we haven't really talked about at this point. You did mention Savage briefly. Now, Savage, similar to Dietz in a way, kind of obviously came into this game with a certain reputation about him, but obviously he's playing... Again, going out there a different way about it. And we saw this whole situation about this story that he was telling, but then we had the whole confessional situation, as you brought up, about Steven sort of going in regards to the Idol, and then Savage going to Jeremy. I mean, what are you impressed with how Savage is going out there playing this after so long not playing the game?
I really am. I think, I knew that he was a given as soon as his name came up. Him and Probst are tight. I knew that was going to... I knew he was in. And I think he's playing a similar game to last time. I think he is a warm person. I think he's a huge asset to his tribe, not just emotionally, but physically. And I really, really like the way that he handled Fishback. Because Fishback was off looking for the Idol, and Kimmy's like... He's off looking for the Idol, at laughing it off, dismissing him. But then Fishback says the same thing, but he didn't say it the same way. After Andrew was talking about his wife, and by the way, while he's talking about it, I'm sitting there, I am sobbing like a schoolgirl. I had flashbacks to when I was out there and my wife and everything else, and I'm a sap, whatever. So, and then he makes this underhanded comment in an attempt to try to bring some discord amongst all the alpha males trying to get in with somebody. It was weak. It was transparent. It was lame. But Savage, being even smarter than that, he goes to Jeremy. He wanted to make sure, number one, that he was okay. He wanted to check in with him, wanted to see how he was feeling, wanted to make sure that he was in a good place, because Savage called it right on the money. He's like, maybe I really touched him. I know how much he cares about his wife, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, that's exactly what was going on. After he made sure that Collins was okay, that's when he said, oh, by the way, Fishback said, you're off looking for the idol. And you could see this, like, are you shitting me? Look on Jeremy's face. And I think that just cemented Fishback's position lower in the food chain. With the mix-up, I've heard a few people say that this can only get better for Fishback. And I respectfully disagree. I think this can only get worse, because when you're in a tribe of 8, 9, or 10 people, there's going to be a couple of goats. There's going to be, 2, 3, maybe even 4 people that you could hide behind, that you can try to make alliances and whatnot, even last minute scrambling and save your own ass for an extra vote. But when there's only 6 people on a tribe and you're trying to figure out who the goat is, yeah, it's probably you. So I think he could be in a lot of trouble depending on what tribe he ends up on. I think this could spell some real trouble for him.
Are there any other players right now that you feel coming into this which are also in trouble? Maybe particularly some that right now are looking okay, but come switch time, they're possibly going to go straight down to the bottom?
I think Spencer is playing the exact same game he did last time. So I think that he got his dose of humility. He got spanked like a little boy, and I think he's going to change his gameplay completely. I think unless Monica or Sierra do something, I think they could be in a lot of trouble. I think Abby Maria is in a monster amount of trouble, just a huge amount of trouble. Obviously, I think Fishback is in trouble. Beyond that, Cass is good in puzzles. And right now, excuse me, one of the few confessionals we saw is that she really wants to change her game up. She really wants to think of it, and that's, everybody makes the cliche analogy about Survivors like poker, but it's not. You don't connect with the people at a poker table like you do when you're on Survivor. I spent more time with those people than I spend with my own wife. We have different work schedules, so we don't get to spend a lot of time together. And you're with these people 24/7. You can't just go into this game cold and closed off. You make bonds with these people. Even people that you may not get along with, you still make a bond with them. And I think that is incredibly impressive of Cass. I know that she's a benefit when it comes to puzzles, so I don't see her in too much danger anytime in the foreseeable future.
It's fascinating with Cass. It is. Like, you're exactly right, because she was my tip for first boot. I think 95% of people who do predictions put Cass at least in the bottom 3 of people who are going to go home. But we have, while we've seen Abby, say, struggle with trying to, be a different person compared to Philippines, but really she's not overly doing that well with that.
She's not.
Cass is just, we have not seen anything to remotely show Cass in a Chaos Cass mode. We had a confessional from her this episode saying, I was touched with that, I'm having fun with these people, I'm enjoying the connection. This is not the Cass that we saw in Cagayan.
And I think that's awesome. I think that is spectacular. I am thrilled to see it. Do I think Chaos Cass is coming back? Oh, hell yeah. There's no way, because that's who she is at her root, at her core. I don't think it was gameplay as much as it was just pure amusement on her part. And, I think it will come eventually. But at least for now, and if she does it this way, this could be brilliant. Because if she makes enough connections, if she makes enough alliance ties, if she is rooted into a place, she could let some of that chaos out and it won't be as bad for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just so impressed with Cass right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. And one thing too, though, Dan, that I will say that you can hold over Cass, even though you're impressed with her right now, is you broke her record for longest interview on Survivor Oz. She held it before you came along. So just want to point out there.
I was gunning for that too.
I feel that after this season, she's going to come out and do like a 6-hour interview. So
no. Don't you ever let her do it. You keep me up there.
I'll just call you at the 4-hour mark and go, quick, come on, Dan, come back on. Cass is about to beat your record.
Oh my God, that would be beautiful.
I'll just sit back and let you two talk. I'll just go and get a coffee or something like that. I think that probably would work out quite well.
I have actually talked to Cass before. We were chatting online, and then she ended up just calling me up.
Wow.
And I think it was she lives in California, so it was like 11 o'clock my time. And by the time we got off the phone, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We were on the phone for like 4 straight hours or 3 hours, something ridiculous like that. It was just crazy. And we, at one point I'm like, okay, I really got to get going to bed. And then she would fire up the conversation again or the other way around. And it really was a great discussion. We had a lot of fun just chit chatting back and forth. And we weren't just talking all Survivor. We were just talking, her legal stuff and the post office and other things. We were talking personal stuff too. But I dig Cass. I think she's real nice. I'm real excited to see what she does this season. So far, she's gotten very little airtime, but that one confessional, man, that has just really filled me with hope for her. I think she's going to be a big part of the season.
One person that also has sort of just really gotten like a confessional or two in each of the first 2 episodes and was a bit more prominent in the first one than the second, but she still got some airtime. Kelly Wigglesworth. Now, obviously, we kind of saw last week she got a bit of a cheer because she came back and she stuffed up in the challenge and she honestly thought she was going home, but then it was all saved. And this episode, we even got a bit of strategy, I feel, coming from her confessional when she was talking about kind of the whole old school bit and they have to respect them and she's going to try and get back into the game, which worked. She was in the majority for this vote when she was on the outs last time. Kelly Wigglesworth, where is she in this game, do you feel, particularly with a switch? Because is she going to be somebody people are going to target because she is so popular amongst the people, or is she maybe somebody who's going to stick around for a bit because people won't see her as a threat because she's so old school compared to some of these people?
Well, I mean, she's not that much more old school than Varner is. I mean, there's really very little difference. And from what I understand, I want to say that I saw Probst talk about this in one of his cast assessments. Kelly doesn't have a television.
No, she doesn't.
She hasn't kept up with the season.
Well, she just interrupted there, Dan. She hadn't watched the show. We had her on 3 years ago, and she mentioned in that interview that she'd never even watched her season. She was on a remote beach in Mexico, and I think it's only since she got sort of brought back into the fray to come on Survivor that I know in her pre-interview on Us and other shows, she was saying that, she had to go out and get DVDs to even watch her season and other seasons. So in 15 years, she'd never even watched any Survivor, so there you go.
Yeah, again, that's really very strange because you could almost compare her to a recruit because it's somebody that doesn't really know the game very well. And the game has changed so dramatically that you could look at her like a recruit as somebody who doesn't understand the game. But because you have this wisdom versus youth, you have this old school versus new school, I think it's going to be very easy for her to assimilate in. What she does with it, I think is going to be interesting, but I think there's certainly some level of endearment because she may not know them, but everybody knows her. And I definitely think there is some endearment towards her. I don't think that puts her in a bad position. I don't think that she'll be targeted because of that, or at least not soon. Again, I see her going, further in the game. I don't see her as an early target by any means.
Do you think she can win?
No.
No,
I don't. No, I don't. I mean, I'm not seeing enough yet. And again, we only see what they want us to see. And the first challenge was obviously the very first challenge ever, which I actually got a huge kick out of the fact that the fireman was lighting the fires. And then, Keith was actually doing that. And then he dropped his torch in the water and he put it out. I'm like, all right, well, the fireman's there. But even then, people were supportive, because she lost the challenge again. And people were supportive and they rallied, and her name never came up. Never came up. And I don't think she can win. I don't know if she's got enough game to win.
I just get giddy every time I just see her on my screen, Dan, because I'm like the biggest Kelly Wigglesworth fan in the world, and just the fact that she's on Survivor again, like 13-year-old Ben's watching her back in the year 2000 compared to 28-year-old Ben right now. I'm just like, wow, I'm there again. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really incredible to see this, and I think she really is one of the quintessential second chancer stories. She lost the first season by one single vote, and I really have high hopes for her. I want to see her do well. I really do. I just, again, bring on the hate mail. I don't think she's got enough game. I think there are too many stronger players, and, the not me, the Captain Coattails mentality, I don't think it can work in a season like this because there are too many strong players, and I don't think it's going to work. I do not think a Captain Coattails is going to win this season. I don't believe it. I don't think you're going to see somebody like that skate right through.
Well, I just want to say that I hope that you're wrong. Because I love Kelly. that was my comeback to your response. That was very intelligent of me, but that was just like, oh, I know you are, but what am I? But yeah, 13-year-old Ben just came out right then, didn't he? Like, just straight away. That was my response.
And the hate mail begins with the host. That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Speaking of mail, we got some listener questions sent in. Thank you to people who sent these in, of course. Keep an eye on our website, who each our recappers are each week, and you can send in your questions. Now, RB Lidgerstrom asks a pretty good question here. Whose edit would you have rathered? Yours, Vitus's, or Vince's?
Oh, mine. Good Lord. That's a no-brainer. I think Vitus's and Vince's were not far apart from each other. They were not far apart at all. I'd rather look like an asshole than a creeper. I like Vince, but he did not get a nice edit. Not even a little bit. I would because I can sit down with somebody for 5 minutes and you are going to look at me and I'm telling you, 99 out of 100 people are going to tell you, like, holy cow, you are not the person I saw on TV. Mm-hmm. But you sit with Vince for 5 minutes and you're not sure. You're still not convinced. And, Vitus, I know Vitus is pretty upset. He said it at his exit confessional. He's like, I would have rather not been voted on than to have been voted on and kicked off first. He was really upset about how that whole thing played out. And, and again, they didn't edit him very nicely, to say the least. They just kept showing him pelvic thrusting those boxer briefs and his junk. And, that's not how you want to be remembered, dude, unless you're Joe, because they'll have like rays of light coming out of his crotch and it'll be, different.
Women will remember that. Women will remember that for sure.
Yeah. Women will definitely remember that. So.
Thanks, B. I just want to read this one out. One of our Oslets, Julian. I just love the way he's worded this. He says, should be a great recap, especially the insights on Shirin and Joe. All the haters of Dan can eat a fat one. His interview shows he's a stand-up guy and he's definitely worth a listen.
Outstanding. Oh, put that girl on my Christmas beer list.
He's a guy, Dan. He's a guy. He's Julian. He's a Julian guy. It's all right.
I thought you said Julie.
No, Julian. Sorry. Well, it's either way there. He'll take that on the chin. He'll like that. It's all right.
Yeah. Julian, I'm very sorry, dude. Thank you so very much, man.
Now, where was this one I saw here? Here we go. Catherine Lucas. Do you think that Varna should flip back to the old school alliance?
Ooh, something, I got to tell you, I don't like that waffling mentality. I really don't. I think Varner started off with the Shireen and Spencer camp, but then he saw how they treated everybody, and I think he was pissed. And I think he wanted to go to the other side because he thought it was going to be stronger. If he continues to do like the John and Jacqueline, flip-flop, like I said, I think it's going to hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he needs to settle in. He needs to find a home. But I don't know if it's going to matter that much with the change-up. So if you suddenly go from 2 tribes of 10 to 3 tribes of 6, that's going to make people are really going to stand out now. You can't get away with the errors. You can't get away with instability. You can't get away with that flip-flop as much as you can in a larger tribe. So much more is exposed. And I think a 6-person tribe is harder to play on than a larger tribe because it's easier to hide in the cracks. With the fewer people in a tribe, there are very few cracks to hide in. So no, everything's going to depend on the mix-up next week.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really depends on the luck of the draw for him.
It's very interesting how that's going to work out. And, the switch-up obviously going to change up. But do you like this idea of kind of like a switch-up instead of sort of just flipping around the tribes, but actually bringing in a 3rd tribe?
I got to tell you, I love this idea. I really do. I absolutely love this idea. All right, let me bounce this off you.
Okay.
Somebody had asked me if I could change the game, what would I do? And the first thing I would do is I would add an idol, but it's going to be called the anti-idol. And so let's say we're in the game, and all of a sudden the tribal council probe says, if anybody has a hidden immunity idol, and you stand up and say, oh yeah, Jeff, I got one. I want to be safe. Here's my idol. And then Jeff says, this is a real idol, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's time to read the votes. And then I go, whoa. Hold on, Jeff. I also have an idol, but it's an anti-idol, and it negates somebody else's idol.
Uh-huh.
So now, all this time you thought you were safe, I play my idol, your idol gets flushed away.
That's clever.
Now all of a sudden you're on the chopping block again.
I like
so
that.
It's something that doesn't help you specifically. It's something that actually hurts somebody else specifically. And the other thing that I had come up with is once the jury is formed, at like the final 4 or 5 people in the game, the jury is brought in to the challenge. And so are people pre-jury, right, or maybe just the jury, doesn't matter. And now the jury votes who gets to come back into the game for that one challenge only. And if that one person can win the challenge, then everybody left playing the game has to go to tribal council with no immunity necklace. Nobody gets it.
Right.
If somebody still playing the game wins it, well then fine, everything goes on like normal. The person doesn't stay in the game. They just enter the game for one challenge to see if they can beat everybody else and make it so that nobody has the idol.
So kind of like an outcast twist, but sort of later on in the game rather than we saw in Pearl Islands.
And nothing permanent either.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Not like they're re-injected into the game. They just get to come in for one challenge only.
Right.
And see if they can steal immunity away.
That's a good. I like that. I mean, similar in Pearl Islands, of course, we had where the jury played in that quiz challenge and they beat the remaining members, and that's obviously how Dara got voted out, which was controversial at the time. But yeah, that works because then nobody has immunity, and then that makes it very interesting. But I like the anti-idol idea. That's clever. Like, I mean, there are some issues I can see with that, but on a whole, like, you know, it's kind of like how, you know, obviously you got the double vote, which is on paper such a simple idea. It took 30 seasons to do, but like on paper, that sounds like a good idea, and it sounds like something that they probably should have done by now. And it wouldn't surprise me, Dan, if they brought that up, and you can try and get some royalties off Jeff Probst.
Yeah, I don't see that happening, but you know, yeah, like it's good to dream.
Well, look, they named the freaking Tyler Perry idol after Tyler Perry, so surely they call it the Dan Foley anti-idol or something.
Yeah, whatever. And did that get played? No, because nobody was smart enough to basically say, listen, Tony keeps flaunting his idols. Let's keep splitting the votes and get rid of his ass. And no, what they just kept doing, well, he's got the idol. I guess we better not vote for him. Oh, come on, bull. So I'm sorry, so Catherine, I'm very sorry we trampled on your question and went off on tangents, but that was an excellent question. Thank you.
Yeah, if she listens to Survivor Oz all the time, she's used to tangents. All right, now we've got a couple of most of these have been answered. Now, we got obviously a few people asking about you and Shireen if you're on good terms. I know we touched on that a little bit on our first interview, Dan, but I guess my question, sort of changing that up a little bit, was: did you reach out to Shireen, or was there any conversation in the last 24 hours at all with her about her vote out?
Oh, none whatsoever. She has no interest in hearing from me, and I have no interest in talking to her. And again, that is, there's nothing wrong with it. We just are two people that will never get along. And in cases like this, in my opinion, the best thing is just to avoid each other. I am not going to sling mud. I am not going to throw hate at her. She played the game. Am I glad she got voted out? No. Am I disappointed she got voted out? No, I'm not. I think it was definitely, like I said, I thought the whole thing was dripping in irony, and I think it was just wrapped in karma. And I said it before and I'll say it again. I genuinely hope that Shireen can do well, and if there are things in her personal life that she needs help with or whatever, maybe she can, she can find what she needs and move on. But I think her first time around was a very, very different experience than this time. And I'm not sure she's going to walk away with a real positive, with a good taste in her mouth from it. So I hope she does. I don't want to see anybody chase this dream and have it soured. But no, I really don't have any interest in talking to her, and it's neither good nor bad. It just is what it is.
Is what it is. Perfect summary. Just two quick ones here before we get into our final five quick ones. Josh Ford, this is an interesting question. Ask you, Dan, this is you, if watching a second chance season is depressing because you'll never get one.
Oh, what did we say earlier about hate mail? Yeah.
Well, I did kind of remove the last bit which he said, because he also added that you'll never get one because you suck. But I just thought I'd leave that bit off at the end.
No. Something, let him have his say. He's fine. And it's real easy to be an armchair quarterback and not know who people are and whatever. Something, I set out to play this game. And guess what? I did it. Josh, how many times have you played? Oh, yeah, 0. How many times are you going to be able to play? Oh, yeah, 0. So you can say what you want. And if I ever get the opportunity to play again, would I? I legitimately don't know whether I would or not, because I set out to play it once and I did it. And in the very first episode, I told people, you will remember me. Well, apparently Josh knows who I am, so I won. So
yes. That's a great way of looking at it. There you go, Josh. Thanks for sending the question in. Final one, I'll ask you, Johnny Acosta. Now I'm gonna basically, you can't answer Shireen for this one, because I'm assuming she might be your answer for this one, but I'm gonna say you can't. Johnny says, Dan, if you were to play again, which player from your season would you want to play with the least, and why?
The answer would be Shireen. Who would I want to play with the least? I genuinely got to tell you, all right, if the answer can't be Shireen.
I'm outlawing Shireen right now.
Okay, all right, I'm thinking. Oh, man. I'm thinking white collar tribe, and it would either be, oh, God, bring on the hate mail from my own tribe mates. What was this person's name?
This person is Johnny Acosta. Johnny, you suck, dude. This is a horrible question. You're just a bad person. Why would you do this to me? Okay. If I'm going to answer honestly, because if nothing else, I'm honest, I would say the person I would least want to play with is either Jen or Lindsay. Okay.
I think both of them were toxic. Again, Lindsay just had her baby. I love her to pieces. I certainly wish her all the best. Jen, but she was crazy. She really was. She was just crazy. And Jen is just too roller coaster. She's either on an incredible high or just a shocking low. And it's really difficult because she is just a bundle of negativity. And, when she's in those down on that downswing, and it's really tough to be around that. So I would say it would be either one of those two.
There you go, Johnny. I hope you appreciate that answer. You made Dan very uncomfortable, but that's what we like to do. At least once per interview anyway. Thanks everybody who sent in the questions. Now, Dan, we close every single recap episode and with 5 questions. And given that you're only the second recapper, always a little bit more difficult for the early people compared to the people who come on later in the season to talk about the show. But I'm going to start off with the most obvious question that I'm sure you get asked a lot by fans who want to know your opinion, Dan. Okay. Who is your tip to win Survivor Cambodia Second Chances?
Oof. Right now, I think my top 4. I think Spencer's going to turn this around. I think he's going deep. I think Tasha is the strongest woman on the season, only by a skosh over Kelly Wentworth. Mm-hmm. I really think she's going to do great things. I think Jeremy Collins has incredible potential. I really do. I think he could go incredibly far in this game. I'm gonna go with Jeremy.
Okay, Jeremy. I like that answer. I'm a Jeremy fan, so you're making me happy there, Dan. Well, you gave me a few names there anyway, so you can choose another one. Who's your dark horse to win this season?
The dark horse? I think that would be Spencer. I think that would be Spencer at this point. Yeah.
Done. Now, this is probably going to be the hardest one to answer all season, given that we have a switch next week. And I know we obviously gave a few answers this earlier into kind of who you think will be in danger, but I want you to give me a definite answer here, Dan. Who will be voted out next week?
Oh, come on. That's horrible. I think it's definitely going to be somebody we have not seen a lot of because there's no story to tell. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be an Abby Maria. I think it's going to be a Fishback. I think it's going to be a Monica. I really think it's going to be somebody like that.
Okay.
I'll say Fishback.
Fishback. All right. Now, this is a question that was sort of asked by a listener last week, and I'm going to incorporate this into our final question, so I like this one. Besides yourself, who from your season would you most think deserves a second chance to play this game again? And obviously we'll discount Joe and Shireen in that as well.
Of course. Well, I mean, according to Josh, I'll never get another chance because I suck. So it can't be me.
Can't be you.
Who deserves a second chance? I'm going over the different tribes in my head. Jeez. I got to tell you, I would like to see Rodney out there.
Yes.
I would like to see what he would do. Mm-hmm. I think that Rodney is a slick, smooth talker, and I think I love Rodney. I was actually just with him on Wednesday. He was supposed to come to New York with me, and he ended up not being able to come at the last second. But I love that guy, and I'd love to see him get another shot.
I'm with you there. Trust me. When his name wasn't on that ballot from your season, I nearly threw something at my TV because I rate him as one of in the top 10 greatest characters who ever play this game. I freaking love Rodney as well. So, yeah, I'm with you there. Glad you answered, Rodney. All right, my favourite question out of these ones here, the final question for you today, Dan. Out of all the players on this season, it can be ones who have been voted off. It doesn't have to be just the ones who are remaining in this game. Which player do you feel is most similar to you?
Oh, well, no matter who I say, it's just going to be all kinds of hate and, whatever else. What player is most similar to me? Again, this is very subjective because, listening to Andrew Savage, I related. I sat there, I'm crying over what he was saying, and then Jeremy walked away because he didn't want anybody to see him. I completely related. These are two guys that love their wives completely. They love their wives with all their heart. And on that level, I can relate to them. I can see myself sitting down with these guys and just, having a great conversation, because at the core, we've got the same type of values when it comes to our family and our wives and that kind of thing. I think Varner is doing things very similar to what I was trying to do in the beginning. He certainly came in with a much smoother transition than I did, to say the least. I came in very badly. I would go that road.
Okay.
I see the core values of the love for our wives, in Jeremy and Savage. But I definitely see some similarities. Once I wasn't according to Josh, I was always a piece of shit. But once I wasn't a complete piece of shit, in the game, I was definitely talking to people. I was trying to make things happen. I was trying to move things around, and I absolutely changed the course of that game when I changed Mike and Sierra's mind, because we were going to get rid of Joe first, and we ended up getting rid of Joaquin first, and that dramatically changed the game.
Okay, I see it. I like it, and I feel as though that Josh is really getting some money out of his questions. So, good job, Josh. Maybe I'll let Dan send you a message to say hi. I don't know how that works. Thanks.
Get bent, Josh. How's that? That's my message to Josh.
That's his message tone on his phone right now. He's just recorded that and he's just put it on his phone. So whenever he gets a text, get bent, Josh. Oh, I've got a new text message.
Oh no, wait a second. No, you know what he can use? He can use that first episode where I looked at Lindsay. I said, "That's stupid." Put that on a loop. So now every time he gets a message from a former survivor, "That's stupid. That's stupid. That's stupid."
Oh, perfect. Dan, always a pleasure, mate. Really appreciate your time coming on here, chatting about this show. Best of luck with everything. And look, we're going to get you back on again. You know that. But thank you once again, and we'll speak to you soon on Survivor Oz.
I cannot thank you enough, dude. That was a ton of fun. That was really fun.
And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Foley, always such good value for money. Just a lot of fun. A lot of things to talk about, and we did that one in, I think, just over an hour. Look at that, a quarter of the length of the full interview, which if you haven't downloaded, please do, because it is not only our longest, but one of our best. And whether you're a Dan fan or not, I'm going to sell it till the cows come home, because it's that good of an interview. SurvivorOz.com, click on the interviews section. But yes, recapping episodes continuing. We're 2 down. Still got plenty more to come. Next week on the show, pleasure to welcome back to the program from Survivor Cagayan, Trish Hegarty, coming on to chat about all things, no doubt, to do with Cass, to do with Spencer, to do with Woo, and to do with Tasha. So make sure you tune in for that one. We've got some great names coming up for the rest of this season. Obviously, we kicked it off last week with Brian. Always a pleasure. We do have a couple of other winners lined up, at least 3 more, potentially a couple more. And one winner that we're hoping is joining us for the finale, I will say he, and one that I know a lot of you out there will be extremely excited for. Definitely somebody who doesn't necessarily do a lot of podcasts, has appeared on this show a couple of times in the past, but obviously hasn't done a lot of podcasting in quite some time. So we'll be thrilled to welcome him back on the show, and as I said, we're looking at getting him on for the finale. If you do want to stay up to date with everything to do with us, our coverage of this season, SurvivorOz.com for articles. If you're listening to this interview via iTunes or any other service, please do head to our website to check out the fantastic article written by Clifton, our Ozlet. He does a stellar job every single week writing out the recaps, and we've got a few other quips in there, our Jeff Probst sexual innuendo, and our tweets of the week. Maybe your tweet has made it to our best tweet of the week, who knows. And of course, Ozlet opinions also do appear on there too. You can always stay up to date with us. Easiest way, of course, is social media, Facebook and Twitter. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, post most up-to-date information on there, including status of our interviews. We are aware that still there are several links that are dead and aren't working. We do appreciate you contacting us to let us know, but we are very much aware of these, and we are hoping that these will be fixed released in due course, hoping this weekend. But again, we've sort of said that for a few weeks, so just please stay patient and they will be fixed very, very soon. Subscribing to us on iTunes, of course, gets them straight to your device, to your iTunes, whatever you listen to. We are available on various other podcasting platforms. You know the drill. You hear me say this every single episode, so I don't really need to say much. Maybe leave us a rating on iTunes. Just hint, we like those as well. And as always, I will take this opportunity to again thank you for your support. I can never say it enough, and I'll keep saying it as much as I can, because whether or not you're listening for the first time or the 100th time or the 800th time, we appreciate it, and we are so happy that you are on board and listening to us no matter where you are in the world. Send us a cheerio, let us know where you're from, post us on our wall, send us a tweet. We do read every bit of feedback we do get and generally reply to most of them as well. Thanks again to Dan. We'll be back next week, of course, for another Oz Topsy as well as our Trish Hegarty episode recap. Until then, my name is Ben, the Tribe has spoken. We will speak to you next time on Survivor Oz on The Trains.